Hey there fellow Planeswalkers, it's Steve for Collector Mania, and we're going to continue our review of Rivals of Ixalan. Today we're going to focus on the rest of the permanent types. We've already gone over the legendary creatures and the creatures of the set, so if you'd like to check those videos out, they're in the playlist. So we're going to start off here with our artifacts. We've only got 3, so not a whole lot. So we've got Cheburashka Relic, so it's a 3-cost artifact. It's got Ascend, so City's Blessing. Taps for 1 colorless, then it has the option to tap it, sacrifice Cheburashka Relic, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Activate this ability only if you have the City's Blessing. So the reason I kind of threw this on here is just because I love mana rocks. This is a good colorless mana rock, so if you're including it like any kind of deck like Kozilek or really any good colorless commander, it has the option of being late game card draw, and most likely in commander we're going to hit that Ascend, so we're going to get that City's Blessing. Next up we've got Silent Gravestone. I've already talked at length about this card, especially like in Let's Talk About It and pretty much any other review that I've had on it. Really cool. I want to see what this will do with Modern. I don't know if it'll be a big card, but I would definitely like to give it a shot in my Modern deck. As far as Commander, I think it'll actually work really well. It's another Relic of Progenitus essentially. You know, maybe not as easy to activate, but still basically almost does the same thing as Grafdigger's Cage and Relic of Progenitus put together. So really cool that way. And then we've got the Immortal Son. So this is the key artifact of the entire set in my opinion. I love this thing. So we've got a 6-cost legendary artifact that says players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities, which is really cool. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, which is awesome. Spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast, and creatures you control get +1/+1. So overall, is there a reason not to play this thing unless you're like in heavy Planeswalkers? No, not really. Like that's the only deck I kind of see not running this is like a Super Friends deck, or maybe like any of the, you know, Durettis / you know, Planeswalkers as commanders, of course. But for the most part, I'll be looking for a few copies of this card just to throw in pretty much anything I can. Next up we have our enchantments. Now there's a really cool cycle of 5 enemy colored enchantments, legendary enchantments I should note, that are actually pretty cool in our format. First up is Hadana's Climb. It's a 1 colorless, a green and a blue, legendary enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, transform Hadana's Climb. So when it flips over, turns into a land like pretty much all these other cards do. It turns into Winged Temple of Cheburashka. So legendary land, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, which is cool. Then it's colorless, a blue and a green, or a green and a blue. Tap, target creature you control gains flying and gets +X/+X until end of turn where X is its power. So like a really interesting kind of like Wolf Run effect. It's giving you the evasion. You know, you can fly over a lot of things, and then it's giving you a huge power boost depending on how big the creature is. So I mean, a 3/3 becomes a 6/6, so on and so forth. I'd say I'd include it in a lot of decks. I love these cards that flip over to lands and give you like an incremental benefit up front as well. So really cool. Next up we've got Profane Procession. This is probably one of my favorites, honestly. I know it costs a lot of mana, but removal is key in Commander, so it's 1 colorless, a white and a black, legendary enchantment. Activated ability, 3 colorless, a white and a black, exile target creature, then if there are 3 or more cards exiled with Profane Procession, transform it. So I mean, front side, you're getting the removal that you want. I know that you have to flip it over, so there's not really an option there, but really you're going to get rid of 3 creatures in the meantime. Really cool. And on the other side, of course, we've got a legendary land as normal, Tomb of the Dusk Rose. It says add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Then it has 2 colorless, a white and a black. Put a creature card exiled with this permanent onto the battlefield under your control. So if you consider like on the other side you exile somebody's Avacyn or something really important like that, somebody's Eldrazi, then all of a sudden you can cast it. I mean, well, not cast it, you can put it on the battlefield. So that's really powerful. Just grabbing those threats that obviously needed to be handled and then making them your own. Really powerful. And then we've got Storm the Vault, which is an absolutely ridiculous card, especially in certain builds. So 2 colorless, blue and a red. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a colorless treasure artifact token. With sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 5 or more artifacts, transform Storm the Vault. On the other side here, we've got Vault of Catlacan. Legendary land, of course, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and then add add to your mana pool for each artifact you control. So where do I see this? In Breya. That's mainly where I see it. Or any, you know, blue-red / whatever deck that's really just trying to run a lot of artifacts. It's really, really powerful, and I cannot wait to try this out in my Breya deck. I think it's going to shine there. I've also seen a few like Grixis artifact builds rolling around too, and this fits right in there as well. So awesome card. And then our last one is Journey to Eternity. Or no, sorry, we've got one more after this. So it's a colorless black and green legendary. This one's an aura, which is interesting. Legendary enchantment aura. Enchant creature you control. When enchanted creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. Then return Journey to Eternity to the battlefield transformed under your control. So essentially you're getting a recursion, so automatically. So the front side of this card is almost good enough to run on its own. On the flip side, we've got Adzal, Cave of Eternity. Legendary land, of course, and it says tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Then 3 colorless, a black and a green. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, absolutely busted. I'll pay 5 mana all day to recur some of the things I throw in my graveyard. Just think about it. You pitch a Shieldred, all of a sudden it's just like, oh gosh, he can get it back for 5 mana instead of what he would normally have to cast it for. So on and so forth. There's a million different ways you can interact with this card favorably. Okay. Our true last one, Path of Metal. This is a red and a white legendary enchantment. When Path of Metal enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature that doesn't have First Strike, Double Strike, Vigilance, or Haste, which is kind of interesting, like a trigger off of things that don't have those words. Kind of different. Whenever you attack with at least 2 creatures that have First Strike, Double Strike, Vigilance, and or Haste, transform Path of Metal. And that flips over to Metzal, Tower of Triumph. Legendary land, of course. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You can pay a colorless and a red. Metzal, Tower of Triumph deals 2 damage to each opponent. Pretty cool. Then 2 colorless and a white. Choose a creature at random that attack this turn, destroy that creature. So, 2 activated abilities. Both of them are kind of meh on their own, but I think together this land actually ends up being really cool. It's got the ability to have removal on it. It's also got the ability to finish the game if everybody's low enough. I mean, you throw this in most red-white decks, they're super aggressive. I mean, there's a chance that activating this 3 times might take out a few opponents, you know? So, really, really cool. Now we're going to get into a few enchantments that aren't part of this cycle. First up is Path of Discovery. So 3 colorless and a green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. Reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. Then put that card on the put that card back on top of your library or into your graveyard. Sorry, I got lost in reading there. So essentially, like, once again, we've talked about Explore before. It's like a really weird scry that actually really works in your favor for like graveyard decks and stuff like that. So very powerful for Commander. Then we've got, I believe this is the last one, Radiant Destiny. So 2 colors and a white. It's got Ascend, so you're looking for the City's Blessing with this one again. As Radiant Destiny enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 as long as you have City's Blessing. They also have Vigilance. So, yeah, it's a little risky, but really for the most part, when you're looking for this type of effect, you're probably going to be running either something that has mass tokens or is tribal anyway, so really if you're running it like tribal vampires or wherever you really want to put it, you're probably going to have that Ascend trigger, and you're probably going to have creatures that you want to buff. So, just another Anthem effect. Next up, we've got our Planeswalkers. First, we've got Angrath the Flame Chain. So 3 colors, a black and a red. Legendary Planeswalker, of course, Angrath. 4 loyalty when he starts out. He's got a +1 ability. Each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life, which is really powerful. The first time I read it, I thought you were the one that was losing the 2 life, and I had to reread it, and now it totally makes sense. Then you've got -3, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if it has converted mana cost 3 or less. So, really just an interesting threaten ability. You can take something small and get rid of it, or you can take something big and maybe even finish somebody off with it before they get it back. Then -8, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. So this is huge in Commander. I don't often look at Planeswalkers in Commander for their ultimate, but this is actually really cool, especially in like a black-red, like I said, just really control-y deck. I think it could actually work. I do wish, I don't know, maybe Maybe it had something else on it? I don't know. The -3 is cool, but I don't know if it's for necessarily multiplayer commander. The +1 is perfect, the -8 is perfect, so overall, I'd play it. I mean, I'd give it a shot, especially like, you know, in any kind of like I said, Rakdos control decks, or trying to think of like a black, red, white control deck, something like that could be really powerful. Next up, we've got Watley Radiant Champion, so 2 colors, a green and a white. So, not my favorite Planeswalker, I'll be right up front honest. It's got 3 loyalty, of course. +1 is put a loyalty counter on Watley Radiant Champion for each creature you control, which is cool, but on a dead board it does absolutely nothing, so meh. Then we've got a -1, target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Once again, cool, but if you have a completely dead board, this thing is completely useless, which I understand that most of the time you're not playing your Planeswalkers into a dead board, but I kind of like to evaluate them that way. Really, if I can't play it by itself, then most of the time I'm just kind of like, eh. So, and then we've got -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card, and then once again, the ultimate really isn't that crazy either. It's cool, but I mean, there's a lot of other more durable permanents that you can have with that effect on it, like a ton of enchantments and even some creatures that I think would be better overall. So yeah, Watley, not my favorite Planeswalker, I'd say. But yeah, that artwork, you get that nice shot of Zakama in the background. Oof, cool. So last up, we've got our land. There's only really one land to talk about in this set. There is a cycle of 5 dual lands that come into play tapped, but they're just like the generic Foul Orchard, so on and so forth. So, Cheburashka, we've got a land that essentially has Ascend on it. It taps for a colorless, and then if you have the Ascend activated, or the City's Blessing, I should say, you can pay 5 colorless and tap, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control City's Blessing, of course. So, really interesting. I would use this more as a way to get Ascend than really as a big payoff for having Ascend. Like, it can be great late game, but for the most part, I look at this as just another way to get that City's Blessing in your deck. So yeah, overall, not bad. So with that, that concludes pretty much the permanent side of the review. Next up, we'll be looking at the instants and sorceries. Kind of a short list, so it'll be a pretty short video, but I didn't want to tag it on the end of this. I figured I threw enough permanent types into one video for a day. So anyway, as always, these are just cards that I enjoy from the set. That doesn't mean that any of these cards or any of the cards in the set that I haven't included here aren't particularly good for Commander or anything like that. These are just essentially my choices. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.